Okay, so get this. England and Wales are seeing their lowest birth rates since like the 1970s. I
Wow.
know, right? It's pretty wild. We've got a bunch of personal stories and some hard data to try and make sense of it all.
Sounds fascinating.
Yeah, and I have a feeling this is about way more than just like, the cost of raising kids.
I bet.
Like we might be looking at a real societal shift.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting because we're actually seeing this trend across a lot of developed nations.
Really?
Yeah, it's not just England and Wales, which I think suggests something bigger is going on.
Like a global shift in how we think about family.
Possibly.
Wow. To kick things off, let's hear from someone who's right in the middle of all of this.
Okay.
This young adult says, and I quote, "I wouldn't want a child at this age. I can't even fund myself at the moment. So I definitely couldn't fund a child."
Yeah, that's a feeling that I think resonates with a lot of people, especially when you consider the numbers. I mean, the Child Poverty Action Group found that raising a child to 18 in the UK costs an average of £166,000 for a couple. And for single parents, it's even higher.
Jeez.
A staggering £220,000.
That's a lot.
It is a huge amount of money, especially when you think about the current economic climate,
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, 220,000 pounds, that's not exactly spare change. It reminds me of something else we heard. I don't think I've ever seen 2,000 pounds myself.
Right?
It really puts things into perspective. But it sounds like cost is only one piece of the puzzle here, right? What else are we seeing?
Exactly. While financial anxieties are definitely a major factor, I think there's also evidence of a more fundamental shift happening.
Okay, so let's talk about that shift. What kind of evidence are we seeing?
Well, we're seeing more and more people suggesting that traditional relationship models and family structures are evolving.
Interesting.
They're finding it harder to find suitable partners, and they're prioritizing their careers, especially women.
Yeah, that definitely came up in our research. One person said, "Finding a suitable partner, I feel like, is more difficult nowadays." Yeah. And another added, "I think societal norms have changed. There's more opportunity for women. I think maybe people are more career-focused now." It's like that classic having it all dilemma, but amplified for a generation that's facing a ton of economic uncertainty.
It's true. I think it goes beyond just choosing between career and family now. It's about a fundamental reevaluation of what a fulfilling life looks like in the 21st century.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
So does all of this make you wonder if this trend continues? What impact will it have on society down the line?
It definitely does. It's the big question, isn't it? I mean, declining birth rates could impact everything from social support systems to economic growth.
Sure.
It raises all sorts of questions about how we'll care for an aging population, how we'll structure our workforce, and even how we'll define family, in the coming decades.
Those are some really big questions, for sure. But before we get too lost in the future, what about solutions? Is there anything being done to address this right now?
Well, there's definitely a growing call for government intervention, particularly in terms of providing more affordable childcare and, financial assistance for families.
Makes sense.
This could potentially alleviate some of that financial pressure and allow people to make choices that align with their aspirations.
Yeah, we heard that a lot in our research, too. Someone even said, "I know the government has already done something to support childcare, but I feel like more support is needed." So what other specific policies are people talking about?
Well, there's a lot of talk about expanding parental leave policies, for both mothers and fathers.
Okay.
This would help parents balance work and family life better, especially during those really crucial early years.
That makes sense.
There are also discussions about providing more direct financial assistance, like increasing child tax credits or offering subsidies for housing and education.
Interesting. So it sounds like there are many different approaches being considered. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution, right?
Absolutely. What works in one country or community might not work as well in another. It's going to require a multifaceted approach to really address this complex issue.
Okay, so where does that leave us? I mean, we've talked about the declining birth rates, the potential causes, and some possible solutions. What would you say is the big takeaway here?
Well, I think the key takeaway is that this is a really layered issue, driven by both individual choices and these broader societal forces.
Yeah.
It's not just about economics or politics, but also about changing values, aspirations, and anxieties about the future.
Right.
It's a good reminder that demographics aren't static. They reflect how our world is evolving and challenge us to adapt our policies and support systems accordingly.
That is a really insightful way to put it. It's not just numbers on a chart, but about real lives and choices of individuals navigating a rapidly changing world.
Yeah.
And it definitely leaves us with a lot to think about.
For sure. This isn't just a trend to observe. It's an invitation to have a deeper conversation about what kind of future we want for ourselves and for generations to come.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave you with one final thought. How might these declining birth rates reshape the world as we know it? What new opportunities and challenges might come up? What will family and community look like in a world with fewer children? These are all questions worth exploring as we navigate this uncharted territory.
Definitely food for thought.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
See you then.